Raise your hands. If you can't name them, how do you know them? How many of you can name? Raise your hands. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to tell a few of those blessings to the people around you. Go. Go.
Yeah, but it's all good. I thought it would be better there anyway.
I know. So I guess it's catch my eye.
I will. They tell me that my microphone's not working. I'll go with both. So you shared your blessings, hopefully. Are there a few brave souls that would share publicly what you said? Yeah, go on ahead. Yeah, you.
I said that we were blessed that our community didn't get hit so hard from Irma.
Okay. Another one that we didn't get hit by Irma so hard. Another one? Anybody else? Yes, Alex?
I said that I'm blessed to be breathing.
Another one? Yeah.
I think we're blessed to have you and Jeannie and Guillermo and Dave.
There are no, what, we thank you for that. I just want to say there are no indulgences for sale today, so you don't have to worry about that. But thank you for that, Linda. Some others? Anybody? Yeah, please.
The choir is a blessing.
The choir is a blessing. Okay. Yeah, Chris. Oh, very good. Okay. Another one? Anything? Yes.
I'd say my husband and our marriage is blessed.
It's not even Valentine's Day. Well, good. Well, good. I'm glad that you feel that way. But as I was pondering, we're doing this Blessed to Me series out of this tradition. As I was thinking about it, the Sunday that came up for me to preach was about seeing our hurts as blessings even, which is a challenge, a difficult one. And as I was mulling that over, what came to my mind is how much we often define our blessings or to be blessed by things outside of us. Things outside, things that we see or can touch or experience or feel. Many times in terms of objects or places or things, even people. But when you think about it, many of the things or the stuff or that which is outside of us that we name as a blessing are often burdens. Do you have a house? Is the house a blessing? Come on now, is the house a blessing? Yeah, the house is a blessing. Is it also a burden?
Yes.
You have maintenance, you have management, you have improvement. How about a car? Is a car a blessing?
Yes.
Is it a burden?
Yes.
Your family. Is it a blessing? Is it a burden?
Yes.
You see? Your investments. How we worry that they might disappear. Even our health, with which we say is a blessing, and yet it too can cost us a lot. We would spend every penny we had to maintain it. And so, as I'm thinking about this, are we blessed or fortunate? There's a difference. There's a difference between seeing something as a blessing and just plain being lucky. Even our friends and families, the ones that we have, we're fortunate to have them, we're lucky to have them, but how many of you chose your best friends? Or did they simply just kind of become? Right? How many of you got the perfect, exact son or daughter? Blessed or fortunate? Well, you would say you were blessed, but you remember that night they came home late and they broke curfew and they really weren't in very good shape and they stumbled home. They didn't feel so much like a blessing that night. Right? You see, when we think about this blessedness, this word, it is more conditional than it first appears. And blessedness, it's comparable to happiness. We often associate that way. And some Bibles even translate the Sermon on the Mount, rather than saying, blessed are those, it says, happy are those. But I find it counterintuitive sometimes how we even define happiness. When people talk about, well, I want paradise in my life. I want that garden. I want to be carefree. We compare paradise with Genesis and Adam and Eve. And yet, in the beginning, what did Adam and Eve have? Nothing. Paradise, isn't that interesting? Paradise in that setting is nothing. And when did it dissipate and go south? When Adam and Eve got caught up in designer clothes. And what in the world does Jesus mean when he dares to say in the Sermon on the Mount that we are blessed even when we're persecuted at our lowest and most difficult moments? What is this? We have to re-examine, I think, how we think, how we appreciate what we're grateful for. Where really do we start understanding being blessed? My time at the Abbey on Iona gave me pause to not become aware of this, but to really rethink it, because it's something I've always known. That because there was no accessibility or need for cell phone, no television, no news to ruin my day, there were no 3,000-calorie meals to think I did not get enough. I still had stuff back here at home. I still had what was here. And yet it is amazing how freeing it is, how different life feels when they're out of sight and out of mind, out of our worries. And when I was caught up in Colorado, and some of you probably experienced this too, when I was in Colorado and the hurricane came, I was very concerned about my stuff, but really about just the ones I love, my family. But there again, I think the awakening for all of us was, ultimately, there's nothing you can do about it. The stuff will be gone. The stuff will be gone, and we, like many people, would simply be challenged to start over. Which I think puts all of this into perspective, because what it means to be blessed, friends, is simply to be alive. It's really that fundamental. I'm not saying the amenities we enjoy and strive for in life are wrong, but that in our society, these things have come to define us and to rule over us. We are what we drive. We are where we live. We are what we wear. And if you don't believe that, then why do corporations spend so much money on branding? And why are people so caught up in labels? And in the process, we lose track, we lose hold of that true blessing that each of us has been given with the fundamental thing that none of us earned, no one here deserved, did anything to deserve, and that is life. Life. The ability to breathe, the ability to see, the ability to laugh, the ability to simply live. And until we truly appreciate this, until we come to terms with this very difficult and yet simple concept, we can't appreciate it. Regardless of our life or our lifestyle or whatever else is going on, we are living lives that are stressed, not blessed. That's our existence. In her book entitled Braving the Wilderness, Brene Brown discusses how much time, money, and energy people in our society spend on trying to belong. We want to belong to something. We want to be a part of something. We want to be welcomed into something. And she says, really, because that's part of human nature, she says that people want to be in community. Somehow, we spend a ton of money trying to belong. And yet she said, we're really not belonging. We are just fitting in. Right? What should I wear to this affair so that I fit in? She said the difference between fitting in and belonging is the communities where you belong simply accept you as you are. The blessing that we obfuscate and accommodate and lose is that we're okay simply as we are, that life is the blessing. We spend so much time and energy trying to fit in, live up to, match or meet all these other external things. You know, one of the odd discoveries of having a physical disability is discovering how it can, or the need to do. And it can make one incredibly sad and depressed. Because all I could see, were the things that I labeled as blessings that I had lost. My wife very generously hired someone to cut our lawn. You know, we have a rather large yard. You would think that that would make someone happy. I wept. I wept. But I was still blessed. You see, that's the turnaround, is to realize that you are still blessed, that your happiness and joy and blessings in life are not dependent on those things. And that the challenge is to reclaim and rename just having life. And what your life can mean in all situations and in all circumstances and in all challenges. That life is the true blessing, the greatest blessing that we can have. People often ask me, how are you today? And I say, well, today's my new normal. Anybody else here have a new normal day today? Yeah. Did you know that's a very biblical response? Today is my new normal. Only Scripture writes it, today is the day the Lord has given me. And you'll do what with it? I will rejoice in it. I will rejoice. The trick is to figure out the different ways to do that, the different avenues, the ways your eyes and your vision and your perception of life is altered, that all of a sudden you see and do things you never imagined doing before. Jesus said, don't hoard treasure where it rusts away, gets replaced by new designs year after year, destroyed by flood or hurricane, and not replaced by insurance, taken away by thieves. He says, rather invest who you are and what you have in what God values. People, you. Because those things are the real treasures of living. And then he concludes with, for where your treasure is, what you value in your life, in the end, will be what makes or breaks you. How many people here own a boat? You own a boat? Put your hand up. Come on. Oh, I know there are more boaters than that. Come on. What's the saying about owning a boat? The best 2 days of your life? The day you buy it and the day you sell it. Our previous church, there was a gentleman who was a member of that church, very successful businessman. He grew to be a friend of our family, Gene and I. He was very successful. He had a Carpet One franchise. And he was a very generous individual. When the church did its remodeling, he gave all the hardwood floor and the labor and the carpeting and all of that. Haig only had one real, and we'd worked with him through divorces and all kinds of things, but Haig had just one real weakness. He loved cars. And not just Electras and simple cars. He loved Ferraris and he loved Porsches. And the back of his carpet store in the warehouse were all these cars lined up that he owned. It was interesting and fun. But they never ruled his life. They never defined who he was. I remember the time he called me up and he said, Keith, I'm going to the racetrack with the Porsche, 710 horse. This is like a $500,000 car. Why don't you come race with me? Put me in racing school for 20 minutes. Tossed me the keys and got on the track. The only thing he said to me was, Keith, if you ride the brakes that much, it's going to cost me a fortune. But the interesting thing, and this is the example really, he had all those cars in the back, and he had young men, they were usually boys who could do that kind of labor, work for him, and that was my son's first job. He started at 16 and worked all the way through. And Haig's practice was, if you worked for him and you had been a good, steady employee, in your senior year, when you went to the prom, he took you in the back in the warehouse and said, which car do you want to take? No, that's what he did. And I said, Haig, how can you do that? He said, they're just cars. Just cars. And one day I went there, they were all gone. Now going back, I have to say I'm not a boater. But I know that boats require a lot of work. And like a lot of things, we own certain things in life because we romanticize about them. Even I have these dreams of sitting on a sailboat and floating around the world, right? That's just crazy. But we romanticize about them. And these things may add to our life, these things we romanticize, these things we want to add to and include in our existence. But they are not, and they cannot be the definition of what it means to be blessed. Because if they are, you will never be happy. Because there will always be a bigger, faster, prettier boat out there. Always. But if the smell of the sea and the breeze in your hair and the smile on your face as you experience the beauty of the water and the sky and the sun or the moon, even when you are on the shore, then you know what it means to be blessed. It's not dependent on any other thing. And when you feel that, and when you sense that, then you can allow everything else to begin to build upon that sensation. Your joy, your peace, your satisfaction. It's not fulfilled by others. That's short-lived. It's in you. Whether you are in good, bad, or indifferent situations, and you can build on that spiritual awareness and grow. You know, Jesus said some pretty crazy things. Like, if your hand causes you to sin, what are you supposed to do? Be a lot of one-handed people here, right? He says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, poke it out. And to the rich young ruler, he says, give it all away. Crazy. Or is it? Because what Jesus is really asking us to think about is, what do we allow our happiness to be measured by? What is really a burden, not a blessing? What inhibits us from being satisfied and fulfilled and having a sense of purpose in life? And would we still say we were blessed if we lost them all? If you can say yes, congratulations, good for you. But if not, and I probably fall in the not category, there's a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do. Maybe you do too.